I have a question that also relates to Alabama. Is Kane Womack all right? Is he okay? Is Alabama okay? Because for the last 6 quarters, they haven't seemed okay. Matter of fact, they've seemed a lot like Lincoln Riley's Oklahoma, if we're being honest about it, over there at Bama, where they can put up a bunch of points, but they can't stop nobody. Alabama allowed 166 rush yards on 54 carries against Vanderbilt. 166 for 54 is 3.1, but still gave up 166, which means also that Vanderbilt was able to keep the ball. And then when you're throwing the ball and it turns into the kind of pick that goes for an interception, then you got a problem, right? So Vanderbilt was able to run the ball consistently enough to hold the ball and defend Alabama just enough to where Bama had to climb back and didn't have enough time to go get the W late because, well, Diego Pavia is onions, and he was making the kinds of plays that you need to make to win that game to run out that clock. Also means that Alabama has given up 12 of its last 18 third down attempts. Think about that. Vanderbilt converted 12 of 18 against Alabama. First, you got 18 third downs to try to attempt, which is in and of itself, no matter who you're playing, that's a feat. And then you converted 66% of them. That's a wild number. Means that Bama has been bad about stopping the run and bad on third down. Put the Malachi Moore bit to the side over there. Who else do we have to pick on for this? Because this is not the kind of defense that we have come to know from Alabama. If nothing else, Nick Saban had always fielded a defense. The offense might be murder ball or man ball or spread or RPO or air raid. It could be any number of things on offense, but defensively, you knew what a Nick Saban defense was going to do. They were going to stop the run, and they were going to stop you on third down. Kane Womack apparently has a problem there, just in the last 2 games. But Georgia is not Vanderbilt. And Vanderbilt damn sure ain't Georgia. You got to get that fixed because you're going to face another opponent in South Carolina that's got a quarterback that can make plays. Now, did he make plays against Ole Miss? No, he did not. But Lenore Sellers made plays against LSU. Okay? Rocket Sanders can run the ball. If Shane Beamer gets out of his own way, not making stupid calls on 4th down, maybe they can absolutely push you. And I don't know what we would do with an Alabama that takes a second loss, right? I've not put them in my college football playoff projection this week. I didn't say they were out of the CFP race. They're still in it, to answer the question in the headline, right? It's more like you have no margin for error here because you need some help to get in the SEC championship, or you, at the very least, you got to beat Tennessee, who's going to be in a we got to win it game with you. Missouri, who's going to be in a we got to win it with you, all the way down the line, right? Losing to Vanderbilt just upsets what we think is going to happen next. Next thing that I think that we have to worry about here, if we're talking about the college football playoff, is who the 1 seed is based on this following weekend. Because an interesting thought occurred to me, and I'm sure that Oklahoma fans are going to feel some kind of way about this, but I'm going to say it anyway. Is Texas more concerned about beating Oklahoma or Georgia? It's a very good question because Texas not only has Oklahoma on Saturday, but Georgia the next week and Vanderbilt the following week. So they have something, they have the opportunity to be absolutely funny, which, regardless of what they do against OU, you could beat Georgia and lose to Vanderbilt, and that would be hilarious, right? That would absolutely upset everything we know about college football. Because Texas is the least flawed team in all of college football. Everybody's got flaws, but they are the least flawed. And they get Quinn Ewers back this week. So how much do you think Texas is looking forward to beating Oklahoma, or worried more about what they got to show against Georgia the following week? Because you know that Kirby Smart had already circled that game on the calendar like we did to say we need to have something in reserve to go after Texas because we expect Texas to be good. Did anybody expect Oklahoma to be bad? No. And for what it's worth, Oklahoma is not bad. Oklahoma is a 4-1 program. They just look shaky as all hell. There's no getting around that part. There's no offense at Oklahoma to speak of, right? Can't run the ball well, depleted wide receiving core, a patchwork offensive line, true freshman quarterback. Michael Hawkins Jr. has been playing above his head. Maybe that continues, right? Maybe you get some spark. Maybe you get some shine. Maybe the rush attack comes to life, but that Texas defense has been elite. To say nothing of what Quinn Ewers is capable of, right? Quinn Ewers is capable of absolutely torching Oklahoma. Despite what I think about Connie Walker, despite what I think about Billy Bowman, despite what I think about Danny Stutzman or R. Mason Thomas, he's got that in his bag. You got Isaiah Bond, who can take the top off the defense. You got Ryan Wingo, who is the least talked about true freshman who is absolutely torching people. Love me some Ryan Wingo. Matter of fact, this 2024 wide receiver class is legitimately awesome. It has a chance to go down as the best wide receiver class that we've ever seen. When you take into account Ryan Wingo bringing up the rear, Cam Coleman kind of being hit or miss, but being good, right? And then Ryan Williams, and then Jeremiah Smith, right? I wonder if you're Steve Sarkisian, how much you've had to beat into your players, that they still have more to show. They still have more to prove, that no matter that they've been the number one team twice this year, that their win against Michigan doesn't mean as much as it used to. You still need to beat Oklahoma because Oklahoma has the gold hat in Norman. They're bringing it down to Austin for the game. They expect to return with it. That game in Dallas, not in Austin. That game in Dallas has always meant the world to Oklahoma. I don't know it always means the world to Texas. I know that Oklahoma sells out every time they get an opportunity to play Texas, whether it was in the Big 12 championship game or in the Red River rivalry. And in years past, that game has been basically for who's going to play in the national championship game. That was the 2000s on either end of USC dominating the sport, right? And then you got the SEC really coming of age in 2009, and it's been that way ever since. I hope that Texas is not looking past Oklahoma, because if they are and they lose that game against Georgia doesn't have the glare that it once did, like the shine that's coming off of it. However, you beat up on Oklahoma by 50, you get to keep your number one ranking, and that is not assured, right? One of the things that I thought was interesting about going into this week is we have number 2 at number 3, which is perfect. Ohio State at Oregon, where Oregon has been 43-3 over the last 7 years. If Ohio State beats Oregon, that's the number one team in the country. They're undefeated with the best win, right? If Oregon beats Ohio State, that's the number one team in the country. They're undefeated with the best win. It's that simple. Covering the spread for Texas isn't enough. The spread on Sunday, at least, was 14.5 points. You win by 2 touchdowns, that's what you're supposed to do. But what is your signature win? It's a 2-loss Michigan, or is it a 1-loss Oklahoma? An Oklahoma that many people would tell you doesn't look like a 4-1 team. Looks more like a 2-2 team. That win against Tulane, as Daniel pointed out, it looks better now, but it doesn't look great. You know, it's still Tulane. If you're doing the thing where you're trying to measure people's resumes when they got the same amount of wins, you're probably going to come to the same arithmetic that I do, which is that Ohio State or Oregon will be the number one team in the country on Sunday. It's just a matter of which, and that's why we're going to play the game. For Texas, though, if Steve Sarkisian is keeping his word when he says, you know, with all due respect, it doesn't matter what y'all think of us, then you should win the game. And if you are the number 2 team in the country, be happy about that, because you don't care about the rankings until the season ends. And then when the season ends, we can have that discussion. But right now, Texas feels like a national championship contender. And I think there's maybe 3 other teams that can make that claim right now. Everybody else has shown themselves to have some really great flaws. Also shown what the transfer portal and name, image, and likeness can do for the sport. Now, on the one hand, you'll tell me that the transfer portal and name, image, and likeness makes way for Vanderbilt to upset Alabama. I think there's something to that. What I think there's more to is just how much we know about each other. Because as quiet as it is kept, Sam Houston is also a 1-loss team. They were 3-9 last year. Did they benefit from name, image, and likeness the way that others did? I don't think so, right? I think some of this is we're in a really cool part of the experience in watching college football. Players are more ready-made to play out of high school than they've ever been. You have freshmen that will show up and take starting positions away from veteran players because they're just more talented, and they pick up the scheme just a little bit more quick, or a little bit quicker. I think if you're going to extend name, image, and likeness in the transfer portal to Vanderbilt, you have to extend it to the rest of college football. As we're continuing to see realignment change, which is realignment is a constant in the sport now. We have seen realignment going on for years now, right? You want to take it back to 2010 when it felt like both Oklahoma and Texas could have been Pac-12 members at one point, and it felt like Larry Scott had this thing humming right along. Then you take it to 2024 where you have 18 teams in the Big Ten, 16 teams in the SEC, and the Mountain West is fighting for its life while the Pac-12 is coming back to life. Nobody could see that coming. Because you have that such movement, you have to have guys, players, and coaches who can adapt on the fly and make this work. And you're getting to see what the cream looks like when it rises to that. I think what Texas has benefited from is being able to keep its core because it's got enough money to pay everybody to keep everybody happy. That means the coaching staff and the players, right? That's important.